Testing to see if this cute little mic works. Hey guys, Karibu tena. Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Maddie. I'm a registered nurse with ICU background and now I work in the PACU. I personally love making content like today's video for people like you guys, especially if you're a new nurse in nursing school or an experienced nurse. As you can tell by the title, today I will be talking about nurse burnout, why it's happening, and things that I've done personally to make sure that I don't get burned out in my current position. First off, just as a little disclaimer, I'm using this mic because I'm in a new room setup. However, the audio quality without the mic is so much worse than it is with the mic. So I hope that this audio isn't too much of a put off and that you still get great content. Without rambling on too long, I want to get straight into the content of this video, which is about nurse burnout. Nurse burnout is a real thing. It's affecting a lot of people out there, and I want to talk about why it's happening, but also things that I do now personally further in my career to prevent myself from being burnt out. We all have aspects to our job that aren't our favorite, and we certainly have ups and downs during our days. However, burnout goes a little bit deeper, and it starts to happen when you're in your profession and you start to dislike that profession. There could be multiple reasons for it. Sometimes the reason is that it's just not the right profession for you. However, like most nurses that I know, we all know that we went into it for a reason. We just need more support. But sometimes that has to come internally because it's not always coming externally. Burnout among nurses often happens due to poor staffing issues, lack of support, toxic work environments, perhaps a bad circadian rhythm. Perhaps you've been on night shift for a long time and have been hoping to move to day shift, have fewer weekends, have fewer call shifts, and it's just not happening. Also, depending on the area in which you work in, sometimes it's more easy to burn out in one area versus another. For example, it's a little harder to burn out in a clinical setting where you don't have to work weekends and holidays, and you have a more mild setting versus a more acute and severe setting like in the hospital, in the ICU at nighttime, in the ER, where there's more room for people to take advantage of healthcare workers. But once again, you may enjoy what you do and even the department you're in. So how do you combat burnout, and how do you know when it's actually time to move on and try something different? Well, I'm no expert, but I want to share from personal experience. I'm in my third year as a nurse, so I have a long ways to go. However, I used to work in the ICU, and there came a time when I realized that I was burning out. This started to happen when I personally worked night shift for a year and started at the tail end of the pandemic. We were often short-staffed. Sometimes there was a toxic work environment in terms of people being negative as opposed to helpful. My circadian rhythm was off, and there was a lot expected from me as a new grad nurse in the ICU compared to other places. It also wasn't until I moved into my new role as a PACU nurse that I actually realized I wasn't providing myself any ways to cope with the burnout that I had. So I loved my old job. It's just possible that with no coping mechanisms and without the advocacy for some different work environment. So I personally think I could have stayed at my old job for a lot longer. However, I'm just super happy at my current position. In order to avoid burnout in my current position, which I personally really love, I realized that I had to get serious and start implementing some coping mechanisms, because the up and down days were going to come no matter what. And there's a little bit more expected of me as I had to start working call shifts. The first way you can avoid burnout is knowing what's right for you and your family. If where you're working and what you're doing is starting to impact and affect your home life with your family, with your spouse, with your kids, then it might be time to move on or at least make some changes. In my case, my husband was upfront and honest with me, telling me that I had changed a little bit. I was more stressed out as a person, and it was causing us to be disconnected. However, he was helpful at the same time as being accountable for me. So at that time, I knew that what I was doing wasn't changing and that I needed to change for the sake of my family. So I definitely encourage you to work on making sure that what you're doing is not affecting your boundaries and your special time with your family when you're off work. And speaking of family and boundaries, that moves into my next point, which is setting good boundaries for yourself at work. This often comes in the form of saying no to extra shifts, no to swapping with people even if they really need it. You have to do what's best for yourself, your mental health, and your family. Oftentimes, depending on where you work, there will be a group text or group email where either your charge nurse or your boss or other people can put in the group chat and say, hey, we're short this day. Hey, we have low staffing. Does anyone want to pick up? And sometimes your boss might even text you directly and ask if you want to pick up. I am personally a people pleaser and have a very hard time saying no, especially when I feel like someone's in need. It's in my nature. I'm a nurse. I have to help those who are in need. However, I soon came to learn that those texts and those emails were crossing a big boundary for me. I personally didn't want to know what was going on at work on my days off. And if I needed the extra shift, I can always text or call in and ask and see if and when the help was necessary. But the texts were definitely interrupting my time with myself and with my family. So it is totally okay to say no, to opt out of those texts, block those chats, and just be upfront with your charge nurse or your boss that you don't want to be notified. You don't have to. It's not mandatory. If it's hard for you to say no, then it's best that you just not know. And trust me, you can find out if you end up needing to know. The third thing that I have personally done to help me prevent burnout at work is having more interests and hobbies outside of work. When work becomes your personality, and for me in the CVICU it was, I know that's a stereotype that we have, it was becoming a problem. Not only does it throw off your balance, but it can actually keep you from connecting with people who are not in your profession and don't know anything about it. Definitely try talking to my friends who are not healthcare professionals about my work, and I can only talk about it for so long before there's a big disconnect. That doesn't mean you can't talk about it and have friends who can relate to you, but it's good to have balance and connect with people outside of your profession. You are not what you do, and you are not your career. Not only that, but taking more interest in your hobbies helps you feel a little bit more recharged so that when you do go back to work, your cup's full. You've recharged or you've refilled yourself, you've taken care of yourself, so now you can take care of others better. The fourth thing I want to share with you guys is to make sure you have a trusted friend, coworker, or family member who you can really share with when you've had a difficult day at work or having frustrations or something's kind of triggered you. This is when I personally like to go to my trusted coworkers or other healthcare workers who are my friends. They understand what I'm going through and they empathize with me. Most of the people I try to go to also have more experience than me and can kind of give me some wisdom and tidbits on how to handle the situations I'm in, whether in the present or in the future, or just walk me through the emotions that I'm feeling. These people are also great if you have preshift anxiety. What I really wished I had at my old job was I used to sit in my car 30 minutes before my shift started and just try to decompress. However, that didn't go very well for me. I ended up just sitting there for 30 minutes worrying about what could or couldn't go wrong at work. What would have helped is having that trusted friend or person that I could have called or texted, and they could have just sent me a little encouragement or reminder or walked me through whatever I was specifically anxious about that day. And pre-shift anxiety is a whole nother thing, so if you guys want me to talk about that and cover it in a different video, comment down below and let me know if it's something you want to hear about, because that's something I definitely struggled with and wish more people would talk about, especially in the nursing profession. We don't like to talk about it a lot, but the fifth thing is good sleep hygiene. When you're not sleeping well, you're not thinking well. When you're not thinking well, it can lead to more anxiety. And when there's more anxiety, chronically and long term, it can lead to burnout. You don't want to resent your job. So definitely make sure that you're trying to go to bed on time, wake up at the same time, keep a consistent routine, and just be more bright and chipper when you're at work. If you fall into the cycle of staying up late to get your time back, scrolling on the phone, going through Instagram reels and TikToks, sleeping for a couple hours, waking up at the butt crack of dawn in order to get ready and look put together, but feeling groggy and exhausted, and then drinking 1, 2, and then 3 coffees later in the day, and then staying up late at night because you're wired, and then you go back to scrolling. It's just it's a bad cycle. All right, and my sixth tip is to make sure you are taking those breaks. You might be the odd one out taking your lunch breaks and those 15 minutes breaks, but you deserve them. Advocate for yourself. There will definitely come plenty of days where nobody else is going to advocate for your lunch break. You might be forgotten, you might be told that there's not enough staff, but that's not your problem. You get to have a lunch break. And then more often you go without the lunch break during a 12-hour shift, the more likely it is that you're going to be resentful that you didn't get a lunch break. You're going to be hungry, you're going to be cranky, and it's just bad long term. So advocate for your breaks, please. Even if Karen is acting like you're not being a team player because she can't get her lunch break that day and you don't want to watch her patients, but you definitely don't want her watching your patients while you're gone. You want your other trusted friend to, and you know you can get a lunch break, just ignore Karen. Alright, and that is all that I have for you guys. I hope that this video was helpful. Again, comment down below if it was, or if there's something else that I could have touched on, and maybe I can make a part 2. And if you're struggling with work-life balance, feel free to DM me on Instagram and we can just talk about it. And if you're struggling with work-life balance and starting to feel burnout, you're not the only one. You're not alone. It happens to plenty of good people. And it may just be that it's time to find something that better suits you, your family, and your lifestyle. So I hope that this is an encouragement to you. If you guys like this content and want to see more, don't forget to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and follow my YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, as they say, and don't forget to hit the like button as well if you enjoyed this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for growing my channel just this past year. And I hope to see you all later. Tutuanana.